We're talking Oklahoma Sooners today on Sharpen the Point. 2024, it was 6-7, a bit disappointing given how well the defense played and how awful the offense was by comparison, although injuries certainly derailed them across the board here. Head coach Brent Venables, he enters his fourth season, looking for a little juice on offense now that Seth Littrell's gone. Ben Arbuckle's going to come in his first season. He was the former offensive coordinator at Washington State, and he brings a new toy with him, quarterback John Mateer. Quarterback-wise last year, Jackson Arnold entered the season with the expectation that he would be the next great Sooner quarterback in a long line of them. He did not live up to expectations as the offense struggled to get anything going early in the year, forcing a switch to the more mobile Michael Hawkins. The offense was arguably worse to me under Hawkins, leading them to turn back to Arnold, which I don't blame Arnold for last season, as the supporting cast around him could not have been much worse. I mean, simply put, he was set up for failure, and I'm shocked somewhat that he came back. He really bled for the team. He came back. He could have easily taken a red shirt and sat after he got benched, but he came back in and did his best, and now he moves on to Auburn, and you get this offensive coordinator quarterback combo of Arbuckle and John Mateer from Washington State. Mateer, he put together a monster season in his first and only year starting for the Cougs with over 3,100 yards passing, 800 rushing, and 44 total touchdowns, which led the country. His dual threat ability was on full display with a rushing TD in every game bar one. And in his short time in Norman, he's really emerged as a leader. He's an on-field coach for Arbuckle in many ways, trying to teach the guys how this offense runs. And hopes are high that he can come close to replicating his success from a year ago. I believe in the talent of Mateer. I do have plenty of concerns, more so than many, as his passing numbers against P4 opponents. Texas Tech last year with 115-1. That was not a vaunted defense like it will be this year. And Washington with only 245-1. He completed less than 50% of passes in those two games, and it really makes me question how he's going to handle the jump up to this week in, week out SEC competition. Hawkins does return as the backup once again with a similar dual threat skill set and leadership qualities as Mateer. He failed last season. He was just not ready. Like Arnold, the supporting cast was awful. I wouldn't write him off yet, but he does need to work on his passing to get the game to slow down, as right now he's more an athlete than a quarterback at this point in his career. Running back wise, heading into last season, I really expected Gavin Sawchuk to lead the way as the bell cow. But for a variety of reasons, he did not see the field much at all, leading to Javante Barnes assuming that mantle. He was fine on limited attempts before an ankle gave out on him, and given the poor line play they had last year with under 600 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns, basically a third of that production came against FCS Maine, so it was not an optimal rushing year for the lead rusher here. Xavier Robinson and Taylor Tatum, they showed flashes of ability in limited action. Robinson specifically with that 100-yard, 2-touchdown performance against Alabama stood out. And then he should be able to surpass Barnes, in my opinion, to get that number 2 spot based on his talent. And then if Tatum's going to re-enter this rotation at any point, he's really going to need to improve his pass blocking and ball security. You can't be on the field if you're dropping the ball here. The returners, they're going to provide the depth in the room now as they landed the big fish, though, and Jaden Ott from Cal. He was probably the best running back on the market in this offseason. Ott grew into a bona fide star in 2023 with over 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns on the ground before a debilitating ankle injury to open 2024 really sapped him of his explosiveness last year at Cal. His original plan was that he would head to the next level after last season, but the poor results cost him that opportunity. Now he's going to look to lead the Sooners' run game back to prominence. Ott is fully healthy now, and he's primed for a bounce-back season where he can be explosive in the run and pass game for the Sooners. Pass-catching-wise, it's not even worth mentioning what the wide receiver room did a year ago, as the expected starting trio of Deion Burks, Nick Anderson, and Jaden Gibson played a grand total of 5 games, while Andrell Anthony and Jaleel Farouk barely saw the field, with Anthony missing the entire year as well. It really is a shock to me that someone from the band wasn't running routes at points during the season with how bad and what they were down to. With the Arbuckle air raid in town, they are going to need much improved play here and health ultimately to capitalize on it. I think Burks is definitely a lock to start in the slot. They paid up to keep him here, and he's going to be a featured target in the offense so long as he stays on the field. Jaden Gibson, he was a breakout candidate before he was sidelined prior to last season. At 6'5", and with the proven production in 2023, he's going to be important if he can be healthy for this season, which is definitely in question given the significance of the knee injury that he sustained. They did bring in a host of transfers to improve the room. The best of the bunch is definitely Giovanni Gibson from Arkansas Pine Bluff. He had a 1,200-yard, 9-touchdown season last year. He was turning heads in the spring prior to a broken leg, ending it prematurely. Those injuries just continue to pop up. But thankfully, Venables has stated that he's ahead of schedule, so hopefully he's going to be ready for the start of fall camp, where he's going to be featured on the outside. The air raid does traditionally employ a heavy rotation at receiver, so I would expect Isaiah Satanga from Arkansas, Jermichael Carter from McNeese State, Keontae Lewis from Southern Illinois, and a bevy other young talent to see the field early and often. Tight end Bauer Sharp, he was heavily targeted and efficient on his way to leading the team in catches and yards, but now he's going to move on to LSU. He's going to be relegated to probably the second tight end behind Trey'Dez Green there. The air raid rarely uses a tight end, and effectively, it's not necessarily the strong suit of it, but it can be done. We've seen it at Texas Tech with that offense utilizing Jason Morrow when he had that monster season there, leading him to get drafted and do nothing in the NFL. Will Huggins from Pittsburgh State, he's the likely starter here. He generated buzz in the spring. I think that the level jump is going to be slightly difficult for him, but he was at Kansas previously, and he's a willing blocker, which is mostly what he's going to be asked to do here. Offensive line-wise, there were injuries and a lack of cohesion that led to this being one of the worst units in the country. Some metrics, they were 134, which is the worst in the country. The one positive takeaway is that plenty of the young guys got experience with many learning on the job here. And this is going to be a very fluid situation throughout fall camp as they work to find the best group, the best starting five. At left tackle, I think it's going to be one of Jacob Sexton or Logan Howland. They're likely to get the nod, while they really are just keeping the seat warm here for five-star freshman Michael Fasusi. Sexton, he's battled injuries each of the last 2 seasons, but he's managed to play 400 snaps between his time at left tackle and left guard. He's a road grader in the run game, so if he loses that left tackle spot, I think he does slide into that left guard position. Howland, he missed most of the spring while recovering from offseason surgery. That could have cost him his chance to start, but given the improvement he showed in the back half of the season, he could take the job in fall camp here. Heath Ozeda, Eddie Pierre-Louis, and Fabici Nwewu, they're fighting for the 2 guard spots currently. Ozeda, he finished last season starting but missed the spring, opening the door for others to step in here. Pierre-Louis, he's the breakout candidate of the group. For the unit, he would have been a starter more last season had they not opted to preserve his red shirt. Staff really likes that kid. Nwewu, he was a constant along the line last season, but was underwhelming for the entirety of it outside of that Alabama game where he did win SEC Lineman of the Week. It's possible that he turned a corner there and he's going to make a big jump, but I think he's kind of bringing up the rear in this group. At center, you got Troy Everett returning and Jake McCullough from Stanford. I think they're battling for that starting center role. Everett is the incumbent. He's the leader along the unit, but McCullough, he's an experienced option, having started 10 games for Stanford a year ago, and each can play multiple positions, so it would not be a surprise if one of them gets the nod at a guard spot as well. Right tackle Derek Simmons, he's from Western Carolina. He may be the player I'm most confident to start on the line. Simmons was impressive during the spring. He brings plenty of experience. Yes, he is making a big jump up in levels from Western Carolina, but he has proven to be effective against P4 opponents the last couple of years. He allowed very little pressure in those games, and he dominated the FCS, but he didn't allow a single sack last year. And they did face off with NC State in that first game. That was a fabulous game to bet on, live bet NC State when they were losing to Western Carolina. D-line, it was a really solid unit a year ago. That created plenty of havoc in the backfield with tackles for loss and sacks aiding their cause. It did go 7 deep with constant impact players in the lineup. They do lose some of that depth now, but some of their most impactful players return in R. Mason Thomas, who had 9 sacks, and Grayson Halton with 5 sacks. And then the addition of Marvin Jones Jr. from Florida State, that's going to help the top end of the group after he had a 4-sack season in the year that defense and team basically quit on them. Thomas did battle injuries his first couple of seasons as a Sooner, but it all came together last season as his potential turned into production finally. He still has room to grow defending the run, but he has put in work to get better there in the offseason. And expectations should and will remain high for him this season as a projected early first-round pick in next year's draft. But plenty of attention on the line is going to be paid to him, allowing others to get those crucial one-on-one matchups. Jones and Adepoju Adebayor, they're going to battle to start opposite of Thomas. Both of them will see the field a ton no matter who gets the nod. Jones was the splash ad in the portal as the former 5-star recruit, and he has size and length to be a force on that side. And that side's benefiting from one-on-ones, which is greatly going to help them. Adebayor, he's taken a similar path to Thomas, where injuries have derailed him in his early years, but the hope is he can make a jump like Thomas did with a healthy season, giving him the chance to earn a significant role given his massive ceiling. In the middle, the trio of Halton, Jaden Jackson, and Demonic Williams, they're going to see the bulk of the snaps as each is a capable, interchangeable starter there. Halton's athleticism and quickness, they make him stand out in a big way. He provides a good pass rush from that 3 technique. Not too dissimilar, I'm not comparing him, but Gerald McCoy operated very well in that spot previously, many moons ago, showing my age there. Jackson was a week 1 starter last season on his way to freshman All-American honors. He did miss the spring. He was nicked up. He should be get ready for the fall, though. He has the talent and motor to be a top-end piece for this line unit. And then Williams, I think he mans the nose. He can eat up blockers in the middle and really fortifies that front 7. He led the group in snaps last season. I think he's again going to play a real prominent role here. Linebacker-wise, outside of the loss of field general and leading tackler Danny Stutzman, that is a big one. The group does remain mostly intact, though. Kobe McKenzie, he's going to be tasked with filling the hole left by Stutzman. After playing significant snaps last season, he's now going to have the added responsibility of wearing the green dot. And McKenzie's a thumper, though. He's a natural leader and immediately took on a vocal role in the spring. He's learned a ton from Stutzman. I think he steps right in. Kip Lewis, he's again going to start on the weak side after doing so in all but 1 game last season. His speed and instincts allow him to be successful here, and he came up big with pick sixes against Auburn and Alabama. He's going to be an emotional leader on the field. He keeps that juice flowing for the unit. The top rotational piece for the linebacker core is going to be Sammy Omoshiga. He mostly played as a hybrid role last season, but I think he's making that move inside. He's a chess piece that can be moved all over the field. He allows the staff to utilize his speed and athleticism as well. Reports are he added weight in the offseason so that he could better hold up on that inside. Defensive back-wise, the secondary was the unit under the most scrutiny a year ago as a lack of experience and injuries led to lapses on the back end. Outside of safety Billy Bowman, the majority of the rotation returns and should be further along in their development, giving the possibility for a big step forward. On the outside, Eli Bowen, he was a star as a freshman last season. He's again going to man a starting spot. He was a freshman All-American. He put his skill set on full display against Ryan Williams in that Alabama game, holding him to 2 catches for 37 yards. He's a heavily targeted guy, but Bowen held him down big time. Bowen is instinctive in coverage. He's not afraid to stick his nose in on a tackle, which led to him ascending to that top of that depth chart as soon as he saw the field starting in that Texas game. The other starting spot is really going to come down to Gentry Williams and Jacoby Johnson. This was Williams' spot prior to an injury ending his season last year. And the coaching staff wants him there again if his shoulder can hold up. He's now had 2 surgeries on that shoulder. When on the field, he is a fierce defender, though. He's not for a lack of speed. He's probably one of the fastest guys on the team. And then Johnson played sparingly last year, splitting time at wide receiver and corner due to the dearth of wide receiver depth they had. But his size at 6'2" is intriguing on this outside. He showed great flashes when he was on the field, but he equally struggled and likely needs more time to develop before he gets thrown into the fire here. Kendall Dolby, he should again man the nickel spot as a veteran presence if he is healthy. The staff was cautious with him throughout the spring in hopes that he can work his way back by fall camp. He's just a pit bull out there. He's unafraid to stick his nose into a tackle, and he could see time on the outside if necessary if they deem Johnson's not ready and Williams ends up going down with a shoulder again. At safety, Peyton Bowen and Robert Spears-Jennings, they're going to be the starters after they split time with each other last year. Bowen, he's the brother of cornerback Eli, and he will hope to have a fully healthy season this year after showing flashes of game-changing ability. Spears-Jennings, he's now going to step into a leadership role on the defense. He's going to take over for Bowman, looking after the youth around him. He's one of the most important defensive pieces. That's why he went to media day, particularly in run support. He grades out extremely well at helping to stop the run. Looking at the schedule and outlook this season, it would be nearly impossible for the offense to be worse than it was a year ago. And while many think it's going to be massive improvement right out of the gate, I think the truth lies somewhere in between. The Mateer-Arbuckle combination that should really present a challenge for defenses while the run game got a lot better with Jaden Ott back there. It's all going to come down really to me to how much this offensive line can improve. On the defensive side, they had to carry the team last year and should not have a big drop-off given they returned most of the important pieces outside of losses of Stutzman and Bowman. That's going to be an effect on the leadership of it, but we'll see who steps up and if they can lead the way. Ultimately, though, the defense, it's still going to be good without a doubt because Venables, that's his baby, and that's where he makes his name. Illinois State, win. Michigan, I'm going to lean win here. I think Michigan has a long way to go in building an offense, but Mateer does need to play well, and that's his first test out the gate. It's nice that this game is in Norman. I don't think you're not going to see Underwood be featured, I don't think. I think this is still going to be a Mikey Keene-led offense, and there's a lot of issues with that offense for me. At Temple, win. Why you're playing at Temple, I don't know. Maybe that's a 2-for-1, but you still should never be playing a game on the road at Temple. Auburn, coin flip for me. Jackson Arnold revenge game makes this thing a heck of interesting. They have a ton of weapons on the outside, specifically at wide receiver. I would lean Auburn. I just think this is a big-time coin flip. Kent State, win. They're one of the worst teams in the country. And then you hit Texas. I think there's a legitimate possibility this team is 6-0 heading into this Red River shootout. It's always a coin flip game. As always, anything can happen here. On paper, it should be a loss, but I've seen crazier things happen in that game. At South Carolina, I would lean loss. It's coming off an emotional game in that Red River, and ultimately Sellers is just a load to handle. Venables is going to have a heck of a time game planning for Sellers there. Ole Miss, I think that's a coin flip game. Austin Simmons, he's really a wild card for them. I think Kiffin can do wonders with an offense. I think that is a coin flip. We're just going to have to see how Mateer's rolling at that point in the season to see who should be favored there. At Tennessee, I think it's a win. Joey Aguilar is not really an SEC-level quarterback. They could have offensive issues, in my opinion. I think they lose a lot. They're going to struggle on offense. Defense should still be good. They should be able to run the football, but that matches up well with this defense. At Alabama, that's a loss. I just don't think going there with Mateer, that's too much. Missouri at home, that's a win. I would lean a win, but I think Missouri is going to be a little bit worse than people expect. LSU, I think that's a loss. Nussmeier's just too much. Defense should be improved, specifically facing Mateer. I think that's going to be an interesting game. It could be one they could sneak up and get, but we'll see. This team can go as far as Mateer and by proxy, the offensive line allows it to go. The schedule has all the makings of a hot start where the offense is rolling with high hopes, but it could all come crashing down as the second half of the schedule is extremely difficult. Games against Auburn and Michigan are really going to provide us with a glimpse as to how the offense should fare in the second half of the season when they get into the heart of SEC play. The floor of this team is 6 wins. It's repeating what they did last year from a win total perspective. But they do have the upside for 9 if things click with the offense. I would just really have to question what is going to take. What is the win total for Venables to keep this job?